What is going on, Nuggets Nation NBA fans? My name is Tom Leuthner. Welcome back to another episode of Nuggets Today, or welcome in if you are new. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you guys are not already. And if you guys want me to cover anything, let me know down below in the comments. We have a few days off this week, so there is a semi-decent amount of things to talk about. And the first thing I want to talk about is just Denver's road record and how well they have been at picking teams apart on the road. And it's funny because so far this season, they haven't been able to win many games at home at all, which I think is very funny. But I also think that it comes into play having newer players on the team. Just because you look at even, and CB said in the beginning of the year, the altitude is hard to get used to. But you look at Denver's record, they're 17-6 on the year. They're 11-2 on the road this year. Like, I mean, that's amazing. They're literally amazing on the road. And I think it's funny because you look at it this year, like so far this year, and you think that if they could keep that up, you might want them to get a lower playoff spot to continue to play on the road. But obviously, the playoffs is a different atmosphere. But you look at what Christian Brown said at the beginning of this year. They had a couple interviews and they were asking people what the easiest and the hardest thing to do is in Denver or playing in Denver. And everybody's answer was just getting used to the altitude. Even when you go on road breaks and coming back to play at home again, you have to get your body has to get used to that altitude. It's not an easy thing to do. So I was really thinking about it. And if you have guys that aren't there in the offseason training in Denver the entire year, or if you have newer guys on the roster, people returning on the roster, it could be a hard thing to do. So, you think about what the roster is. Bruce Brown, who obviously loved playing in Denver, but he took, 2 years off from playing on the Nuggets. So that probably has to do with him not that he's not in shape, but he's coming back, so his body has to get used to it. Tim Hardaway Jr. is new to Denver, never played on Denver before, played in Denver a couple times. He's getting used to it. Obviously you have the regular guys, Jamal, Jokic, P. Watt, but then you have Cam Johnson, who's sort of getting used to Denver now, not just the temperature and the weather and the altitude and the thinness in the air, but just the system in general. He's getting you could see he's becoming more confident. But then you look at the backup center, Jonas Valanciunas, and I wonder if maybe there's something to do with Val not being fully in shape, and that's the reason that he's not getting too many minutes. But somebody also brought up the fact that he's not the best defender. DeAndre Jordan was so much better of a defender, and I get it. But that's also not why you brought him in. You brought him in because you needed somebody to be able to play and score off the bench without Nikola Jokic there. And DeAndre Jordan wasn't touching the court anyway. And when he was, it was atrocious because he could not do a single thing for the Denver Nuggets. So I find it so interesting that they are really able to just pick teams apart on their home court. I would love to see them do it against a team like the Thunder or like the Lakers or even a team like the Knicks in the Eastern Conference or the Pistons. And that's when I think it would become a real situation, a real conversation to be had that Denver can beat any team on the road at any time, because right now they're beating some iffy teams on the road. So I think it comes down to playing one of those top tier teams like the Knicks or like the Pistons or the Thunder or the Lakers. But we've seen it, and I am very confident that Denver can go ahead and get it done just about anywhere in the NBA at this point, just because of how well they have been doing it so far this season. The next thing I want to talk about is just a player who I've been very surprised that he hasn't gotten a real opportunity this year so far. That is DaRon Holmes, obviously. And I want to know if there's a reason that he's not playing, and if something's going on that we're not really hearing about, or maybe he's just not ready to play as a player. And it sort of makes me a little nervous because this is a guy who, like I said, I continue to say we were so confident in, and everybody was, rookie of the year talks, it could happen, or he's going to take that leap, he's going to bring Denver to the promised land because Denver needs that bench power forward / center, and DA's not playing him. And I also think that when the majority of the rotations we've seen, DA has been correct in what he has done. So I wonder if there's something that we're not seeing. And I was able to talk to Stretch about it, and we got to the conversation of, is there something more going on that we don't really know about? Is he really getting beat out in practices where he's not as good or not even close to as good as a guy like Zeke Naji is? Like Spencer Jones is proving. I think that the two-way players have been proven and continue to prove that they deserve a shot and they will get it. Look at Spencer Jones, which is somebody I'll get into in a second. So if DaRon Holmes is just not getting any minutes when he does get called up, especially in a game against like the Kings where you need to win, or the Pelicans, I think there might be a little bit of a problem there, but I wouldn't be opposed to then Denver, adjusting and testing the waters and looking to see if there is a trade that could happen for Deron Holmes. Just because if you're not going to play him, there's not much time to develop players right now in this Denver system. If you're trying to win, you need to trade the guys. So like I said, I wouldn't be too opposed to Denver shopping Deron Holmes and Julian Strother. Obviously he's dealing with his injuries, but if he's not going to play, and if you could get a 2-for-1 and get a vet in return for them too, that can really help this Denver team. And then you sign Spencer Jones for the majority of the year. Like I said, I'll get into that. But I just think that there needs to be one or two more players on this Denver team that can truly impact their style of play and adjust, help them adjust to the bench unit a little bit more. Like I continue to say, backup point guard could be something that they should look into. Another guy that's on the market still, Alec Burks. If you want to bring in another vet that could shoot, him and Tim Hardaway could be great together. But it's also the same type of player, and you need something else, which I think is a ball handler at this current moment. But like I was saying, I want to talk about Spencer Jones a little bit. This is a guy who has proven to be good enough to play. And I saw somebody compare him to, they said that Denver found their Bruce Bowen, which is a funny comparison, but I also don't hate it. He's playing defense. And the one thing I really want to talk about when it comes to Spencer Jones is just the fact that it seems that Nikola Jokic has made him so comfortable. And I think that's what we talked about in those games where, Jokic was not shooting as much. He was giving the ball to Spence, but we're seeing Spence catch the ball in the corner and just let it fly now. And I think that's what we needed to see. And he does deserve a spot in this team. He deserves a spot in this rotation full time. And I think if he has that confidence to just let the ball fly, to try to be able to score on offense more, then Denver's in the best position possible. Because when you get your two starters back, you can run a legitimate rotation off the bench, and you have another guy that can go out there with Payne Watson, who are two starters now, four now. So when if CB comes back and he's shooting the 20, just over 20% clip that he's shooting right now from three, you have other options to start if you bring in Spencer Jones full time. But I hope that they find a way to do that before they waste all his minutes and games played on the two-way that he is on. So I think he's great. I think that there's nobody else right now in the world that deserves a full-time contract on Denver for the rest of this year than Spencer Jones. The last thing I want to get into is a former player, and it's Russell Westbrook. And if you guys watched the game yesterday, he dropped a massive triple-double in a loss to the Pacers. And I know the Kings are all over the place, and everybody keeps saying, well, the Nuggets gave up on him. He has the highest turnover rate out of any point guard in the pick and roll this year, which would have made us go crazy because we would all say, you know what? We have the right team to do it, and then Russ would come in and turn the ball over, and I think everybody would feel differently. Granted, he's playing with Jock Landale. I understand that. Sabonis is out. But at the same time, I don't think that Russ would have fit this team. I don't think that this is a lineup that he would have fit with. I think that he had all the freedom in the world last year, and I've said this before, to do whatever he wanted, that this lineup wouldn't allow him to do that, and he would not be the Russell Westbrook that he was last year for Denver. And I think that we'd be more frustrated with Russ not giving the ball to a guy like Tim Hardaway or Payne Watson when he does get scrooched down to the bench. I think that we would feel a different way about Russell Westbrook. So as much as everybody says they would love Russell Westbrook, if he was leading the league in turnovers on pick and rolls, I'm sure everybody would feel super different if he was on the Denver Nuggets again. But that is all I got for you guys today, Nuggets Nation. Like I said, make sure hit that like and subscribe button. If you guys want me to cover anything, let me know down below. If you don't agree with what I'm saying, let me know. I'm open to the criticism and debates and the arguments, but that's all I got for you guys, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow.